Hello and welcome to another episode of Kinetic Coffee. This is actually episode 30. And
Whoa.
to celebrate our 30th episode, we have my wife, Coach Katie, as
Hey.
our featured guest.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
30 of them.
She's been invited before, for the record. She's complaining that this is the first time she's been on, but she's been invited multiple times. So the topic today actually was Katie's idea, and she thought that for the 30th episode we could do sort of the year in review, but it's really the years in review. So we're going to go through chronologically with basically how Elevated Kinetics was born and then where it's going now. And we don't know if we're going to do it in one episode because our daughter Mila isn't napping and we have no idea how much time we're going to have. So if we have to do a to be continued, then that's totally fine. So there's my initial monologue for the time. How's everybody doing? Jake, Josh, how's everything going?
Good. Still here.
Doing well. Doing very well. Yeah. Still living life in this quarantine.
Jake's been doing on-site personal
doing?
training visits.
What was that?
Jake's been doing on-site personal training visits. He got the green light.
Yeah. Yep.
So
And
cool.
I've got 3 today, so I'm excited about that.
The members that I've talked to have been super pumped with your site visits. So
Good.
It's awesome.
Sweet.
All right. Since we don't know how much time we have, we should probably dive
Right
in.
into it.
All right. So we know that some people listen to this podcast that know my story, and we have actually, especially last week, we have a lot of people that listen to this podcast that don't know my story. So we're going to go all the way back to 2003, where this all began for me. So 2003, I graduated from high school, and I am a pile. I am going to do the gap year thing. I think it's a great idea to go work at the ski area, be a ski bum for a year and, find myself or whatever. So December, not even 6 weeks into my job on the ski hill, I idiotically take a jump and shatter my spine. Okay. That alone could be an entire podcast, so I'm not going to go into all the details about me driving myself down the mountain and almost being paralyzed and all that kind of stuff. But suffice to say, it was an extremely severe burst fracture, which means I exploded my L3 vertebrae, which is actually pretty low to the bottom. Complete explosion, shot past my spinal cord within an eighth of an inch on both sides. I should be paralyzed today. I'm not. They decided not to fuse it. And I was in a full body brace for, I think it was like 6 months. I had pain every single day. My dad, I was 18 years old. My dad had to wipe my ass, and I will be forever grateful for that. The week I came home, he literally had to wipe my ass. So anyway, I get out of the back brace, and I have pain every single day. And the doctors are like, you can not put a barbell on your back. You cannot lift. You cannot play hockey. You cannot do all these things. So as soon as I started strength training, my pain went away completely. So I knew there was something to it. And went down the rabbit hole, did some personal training as a client and as a trainer. This is also when I started really coaching hockey. A year or two before this, I was dabbling, doing camps. I was getting a paycheck, but I wasn't taking it that seriously. It was just like a way to spend my summers. But now I'm figuring out, okay, strength training helps my back and I enjoy coaching. Let's take this thing to the next level. So I'm coaching hockey. Long story short, we're going to fast forward to 2008 when a buddy of mine came back from the military, told me about this thing called CrossFit. I was friends with personal trainers and those kinds of circles, and they told me that's the stupidest idea in the world. And, I didn't really know what it was. So we do Murph in a park. I didn't know what a kipping pull-up was. It took me, who knows, 3 hours. And I got hooked on it. At the time, I was going to a Globo gym, experimenting with the Olympic lifts because I had a strength coach in college. I did end up playing hockey after I broke my back. Strength coach in college taught me how to lift. Now, the way he taught me, I had to fix later, but I was doing the versions of the Olympic lifts. I get kicked out of that gym, and I find out you can drop weights at CrossFit. So I, like a lot of people do, I show up to a CrossFit gym and the doors are all locked. And I'm like, well, this place sucks. If they're not open, how am I going to become a member? And because I didn't know that it wasn't like an always open gym. It's, it's just coach classes and stuff like that. So I keep going back. Finally, I figure it out. And it's like this dirty, dusty back end hallway. And, long story short, I fell in love with it and it was great. By 2010, I was a national level hockey coach, fairly successfully, but I was still just an assistant. I wasn't a head coach. And I met Katie at the very end of 2010 or early 2011. Yes? Okay. Cool. So I think it's funnier to hear this end from Katie. What did you think of CrossFit watching me do it?
So I was actually in college in Fort Collins, and it was funny because we would do the back and forth. Like he would come up or I would come down because he was living in Broomfield. So it was funny because
talking to that side.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
So it's funny because he would be like, yeah, I'm going to come up, but I can't come up until after my class at 5:30. So I'll be up at like 7. And I'm like, really? Like, you're going to blow me off pretty much for a class, and then we have to have late dinner. So it like went on like this. And then I think we went to sectionals in like spring or summer of 2011. And I still had no interest in CrossFit. I was happy with my like elliptical training at the gym, reading a magazine. And I saw like all these badass girls doing like muscle ups and lifting weight. And then I was like, yeah, I think I want to try. But he had been pushing it. Like it had been probably like 8 months of trying to get me to do it. And I'm like, nope. And then I thought for myself and I was like, yeah, I'm ready.
So that's a lesson for the guys. Like the harder you push something with your significant other, the more they'll push back. And then as soon as you shut up about it, they might change their mind.
Oh.
So,
just come watch.
Yeah. So, yeah, then we kind of went down the rabbit hole of competing. Katie came in raw. It was like a lot of people who try to coach their spouse in something. I still remember trying to teach Katie an air squat. And I told her to push her knees out, and she's like, they are out. And I'm like, well, why would I say that if they weren't already out? And like a lot of our members have heard the story a million times, but we eventually got to the point where I could coach her. And that was good. And then 2012, we were competing fairly heavily in CrossFit. Mm-hmm. And 2013 was when both of us were on the regional team, which was funny. If you guys know this workout called Griff, we were doing this team training. And Griff is you run a 400, then you run backwards for 400, and you do like 2 rounds of that. It's like something like that. Anyway, I was running backwards on my way in. She was running backwards on the way out, and we hit each other and bumped heads. So it was fun because it was like it was like tryouts for the team. So it was hilarious because the guys are just like, yeah, we'll like let the cards fall as they do. And the girls got like
super competitive
and bitchy.
But it was one of the, like during the tryout time, I remember Brian had this great idea to overhead squat me at home. And so we're like, yeah, let's try this. So he overhead squats me, ends up dropping me. I like totally messed up my elbow. And that was like right before one of the workouts. And I was like, you just blew my chances.
She made the team.
Oh, good.
So, okay. So we go to regionals in 2013, and this is about the time we decide, there's something to this. I've been coaching for a long time, right? Kids, parents in hockey have already asked me to write training programs for them. I'm dabbling in personal training. I'm fully coaching CrossFit, and people are asking me more and more and more to be their coach. So we're like, okay, there's something to this. I have a terrible cubicle job. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't for me. It was a cubicle job. It was very monotonous, boring type stuff. I'm like, you know what? I have enough interest and I have enough people asking me to do this, people literally telling me to open my facility. I should do it. So we start in our garage.
So you know what happens before that though is I come home from work one day and he's like, I quit my job. And I'm like, okay.
So yeah, I quit my job early so that I could coach full time and really make a run at it. I forgot about that. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So you quit before you had a plan?
Yep. He might have had a plan in his head, but we didn't have a space. We didn't have like anything, but he was like, I'm doing this. I'm quitting my job.
Mhm.
I was doing pretty well as a personal trainer though. Like I didn't have to open it. I could have made it work pretty well. But anyway,
Yeah, you were coaching.
I was coaching a ton.
Yeah.
I was doing back-to-back days of like 11 sessions. It was insane. Yeah. So I knew that I could do it. I didn't think it would be as hard as it was. I knew it would be hard, but it was like ridiculously hard in every way that I never would have imagined hard. But anyway, so we start in our garage and it's like at night after work. And we start with like 4 people and they're like our really good friends. And it was fun, but that garage got packed really quickly. We're carrying kegs around the neighborhood. Our neighbors are like, what are you doing throwing that ball up? Dan was literally wearing a hockey helmet to do muscle ups because the ceiling was so low. And so it was fun. But yeah, we did Fran in like 9 degrees.
Yeah.
Which we actually did fairly successfully. I have no idea how that happened, but
Yeah, all the girls were like in the garage and we had to pull a squat rack out and the guys did it in the cold.
Oh,
this was also the year.
Did you wear gloves?
Yeah, we actually did. And the guys like changed gloves, like as we changed like if I went first and then you went, like you would take my sweaty gross gloves and it wasn't actually that helpful.
Oh.
Yeah. And they were like dirt bike gloves. They were like Fox racing gloves.
oh, nice.
Oh, great. All
Yeah.
leather and
Yeah.
Because they were like,
moist,
you need the
absorbing.
tactile feel for the barbell, you know? It wasn't good enough. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that same year was the year that I learned about overtraining because I was trying to do competitive CrossFit. I was dabbling in competing in weightlifting and strongman all at the same time. I thought it was a great idea. And through part of this, I found out that I needed a orthotic in my shoe. And I randomly got a custom orthotic done across the street from where the gym is now. And it's Vista Business Park, but so they grow weed in this location now where I got my custom orthotic done, but that was the first time I planted the seed of that area for the gym. And then once we start driving around looking for spaces, that thing kept popping up. And we met this crusty curmudgeon named Jerry who owns the building. And at the time he's freaking 83 years old.
Yeah, at least.
And, now he's 90, 91. But when I signed my lease, I actually didn't think he would live until now, but he has. So good for him. No hard feelings, Jerry.
He's probably not even watching. He doesn't even know what podcasts
I don't
are.
think he knows what a podcast is, and nobody's going to tell him about it. So
No.
So yeah, it was kind of fun to like drive around looking at spaces. But anyway, February 2014, Cutthroat CrossFit, genius name, by the way, just genius in the space, like just amazing. I'm going to take the Colorado State fish and I'm going to make it sound like a pirate, and that's not going to scare anybody. What a phenomenal idea.
I still think it's a good name.
Yeah, I mean, fishermen think it's a good name, and people who know me think it's a good name. But from the outside looking in, it's like, I might as well have said, cut your throat and die CrossFit. So that same year, we also started Cutthroat Barbell. Katie and I got married the same year that we opened the business. That was insane. We took Izzy to nationals that year for the first time. There was a lot of cool stuff. She got silver in her first year at nationals, which was remarkable, given the training lead up and everything. So that was pretty cool. What else? I mean, that could be a whole day in that year. that we talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I started working as a full-time firefighter, so I had a weird schedule. But we're like, I remember when we got married that year, I'm like, we could make it through opening a business, like new jobs. Pretty much make it through anything, I think.
And
Let's
Josh,
restart our
you
lives.
joined the gym I think it was that summer as an athlete.
Yeah. I don't know if you want me to start my timeline now, but
Yeah.
Yeah, we can weave it in.
Yeah.
okay. So mine, I guess if you really think about it, my time started back when I was 12, when I met my childhood friend Digger, which ended up being our mutual friend growing up. Digger played hockey with Brian. Fast forward to 2003, joined the military, and then 2012, I shattered my ankle with a motocross accident, overshot a jump, just annihilated it. Went through rehab, trying to get back into fitness and stuff like that. I had a friend who got me into CrossFit at that time. And then actually January 2014 is when I started CrossFit. And then I came back, I think maybe the springtime, April, May, maybe even to June. I had come home for leave time for a couple of weeks, and Digger had mentioned that you had opened your own CrossFit gym. And I was super ecstatic because it wasn't that far away from where my parents lived. So I think the first time I showed up at your gym was, that spring or summertime right after you guys had opened. And I remember when I showed up, super nervous because I didn't know any of these people. I didn't even know Brian. Digger had given me your number, and I think we had exchanged texts. And he's like, yeah, just come on in. So I showed up that day, walked in. What I remember the most is walking into the lobby and remembering the carpet that was down, the shelves on center blocks. Like you had 3 levels of center blocks, and all the little spaces had their own shoes and stuff like that. And I was concerned that, like, if I put my stuff in the wrong spot, is somebody going to kick my shit out of there? So, but it was
hideous.
Yeah.
I forgot about
Hideous.
those shelves.
Yeah. Not only that, when you walked in, you had that little screen right next to the door, or maybe it was close to the center blocks. But yeah, and then the couch was on the other side. Of course, when you show up, you change into your CrossFit shoes, your nanos or whatever you have. And yeah, I remember that was the first time I had come to come see you guys and work out for the first time was when I came in on the leave, 2014, that time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you were like back and forth.
Yeah, and then from there, it was just every time I would come home every few months or whatever, I would, stop in and do a couple of drop-ins and have a few classes with you guys and see where we're at. I also remember the conversation we had too about me squatting. I had told you about my ankle, and you're like, just tell the coaches that you have an ankle issue. And I remember every single coach that I encountered at that time was always get your heel down, and I had to explain to them like what was going on. I remember a few people even tried to give me pointers on how to squat better. I was like, I don't think you understand. Like I can't get my heel down. Like there's nothing you could do and put me in a situation where I can get my heel down. Like it just won't work. So a lot of those conversations.
There were only a couple. It was me and Katie, and then Dave, and then Mike started later that year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I remember Dave. I remember actually Ryan and Digger. The first time I got them to come to your gym, they were coached by Dave, and then ever since then, he's been in my reality. His name is the Clydesdale. He's a big Clydesdale.
hopefully he sees this so he can hear that.
Yeah. So Ryan and Digger, every time they ask about the gym or Dave, they always ask about the Clydesdale. So.
All right. So first year 1 is crazy. It's I majored in economics and I had a minor in business, and there's literally nothing in college that can prepare you for opening a micro gym. So that year was kind of a whirlwind of like, oh, I know nothing about business. Cool that I was pretty good at coaching because now I got to learn everything about business. And anyway, I'm still learning, but I had to basically get a freaking PhD that year. But 2015, I think it's get the bright idea that, oh, maybe it's CrossFit that's the name. it's if I call it cutthroat athletics, and then I put everything under the same umbrella, then it'll change everything. So it wasn't the word CrossFit that was intimidating. It was the word cutthroat. And but we had the barbell club, and we were doing sports performance, and we were expanding. So it made sense to call it athletics rather than CrossFit because we were doing a lot more than just CrossFit. But that's 2015 was that first iteration or that transition into cutthroat athletics. Katie and I were still going to. At the time, it was Flatirons weightlifting, and Jake was training there also. So we actually met Jake. Jake, when did you come to Colorado? Was it 14 or 15?
It was 14. So you guys opened in February, and I didn't get into Boulder until May. So
okay. So we were still driving to Boulder to do Olympic weightlifting to work with
Randy.
Randy, the coach was there at the time, and that's how we met Jake. And we were just training Olympic weightlifting with Jake way back then, just as fellow athletes. We had no idea that later we would be doing what we're doing now. So just kind of a fun side story there. But 2015, that's when we took Roseanne to Pan Am's, and she set the world records in the clean and jerk and the total. Izzy also, we took her back to nationals. She took silver, and I was training a handful of other athletes not related to the barbell, which was kind of cool. So it was only a couple years in, but we had a serious track record for coaching high level athletes after I opened the gym, which was cool because I kind of thought when I opened it, maybe that was over. I had already coached at the highest level that I would with sports, with hockey. And I thought I was just going to work with regular moms and pops and middle school kids and high school kids. But then it was like, all right, I can still coach. This is fun. So I don't know. You remember anything else about that year, either of you guys?
I have a cool memory about that year. So 2015 is the year I went to Afghanistan, and right before I left, the Open was still going on. We were in weeks of that. And I remember I came home for, I think, a week and a half or something like that before I left. And I had asked you if I could do one of the workouts there and be judged. And you said, sure. And I asked if I could bring my family. So I think my brother and sister and my parents showed up. And I ended up doing that workout in front of them while you judged. And they took videos of that. So I still have video footage of everything from that day, which was pretty awesome because, you took time out of your day to judge me and do the workout and everything. And my family got to see that before I left for Afghanistan. So that was an awesome moment to be a part of before I left, and then have that experience with the gym, not even knowing that I would come back after I got out of the military and be this integrated into the gym. So that was a really cool time for me. So
I remember that like vividly.
Wasn't it like they had just announced it?
Yeah, actually, that Thursday I did it that night. I think I did it right before your afternoon class, whatever time you guys were holding that, because people were coming in and they were actually watching me do it. And that was the overhead squats and the pull-ups. I don't remember the scheme of the workout or anything, but I remember watching the videos after that and just watching how high my heel was off the ground as I was doing overhead squats. How many times I got no reps because I couldn't get low enough. So
yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, so that must have been March.
Yeah.
And that same we were doing the intramural open, that same workout, there was a kid that just dropped in for whatever reason, but he puked all over the place.
Ugh.
Like outside, and it was like, dude, you could have puked anywhere else but right here. And that was kind of funny. But 2015 was also the year I went to Russia. So I think we did Klokov's seminar in 14, and then we stayed in contact.
Yeah, we were in Vegas, right?
In Vegas.
Yeah,
we stayed in contact on WhatsApp, and then out of the blue, I get an invite from Dmitry freaking Klokov himself. He's basically going to comp me to go to his camp. And I'm like, dude, that was the coolest thing ever. I can't say no to Dmitry freaking Klokov. So that was pivotal in a lot of ways, just because there were so many high level athletes and coaches there. Every night was a different lecture from a top person in the field. Like there's so much that I learned there. I still use it all the time, and I still tell those stories. Actually, one of the guys I was there with just bought a new he lives in Kentucky, so everybody called him like the redneck and everything. I think he might listen to this podcast too, but he invited all of us to go to he got this like 50-acre property, and he has this like exactly what you'd expect Kentucky barbell setup on the property. But it's anyway, that was in the fall, and then I did that in preparation for the American Open. Then this was before it is in the way it's currently set up. It was
that was Reno, right?
It was Reno. So that was Jake was coaching, and I remember seeing Jake there, and so that was the at the time it was the most athletes ever to compete at an American Open. And then now it's like that all the time because they spread it into the regional events. But that was I think that was the last year or last couple of years in that format before USA Weightlifting changed it.
Yeah, it was still pretty tough to qualify for that.
That was the year I got stuck for 33 attempts between my first and second clean and jerk.
That's because they had like they do have now, where they have like the H and the G and the F sessions, but they still had like 15 athletes in a session, and it was packed.
Yeah,
everyone opened around the same number. So as soon as you hit your opener, you sit for about 30 minutes, then you come back in and you take your second attempt after you cool off, which is fantastic.
We went all the way back down to 90 kilos and came back up through the warm up, and I had only been training like 1s and 2s at the time, so I was completely dead. I ate 2 doubles right after that at In-N-Out.
But you have to say, like, as a coach and an athlete, that's a great learning
Oh,
experience.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Was that? Did you compete at 94 in that meet?
No, I was 85.
You were 85.
Yeah, and so, but I was 94 when I came back from Russia. So that was.
I remember you lifting at the front range meet after you'd come back from Russia, and you were 94.
Yeah,
I guess you must have gone back down for Reno.
Every day in Russia, they make you weigh in, and if you don't gain weight, they're like, "What is wrong, Brian? What is your body weight? Oh, you still 88? Oh, you don't eat enough. You come to Russia, you gain weight, you become big, strong man. Right now, you skinny bitch." So, all right, that was the end of 2015.
Yep.
So, and I think Mila fell asleep.
Yeah, we have nappers.
All right,
Cool.
we're rolling here. We're good. Okay. The end of, let's go into 2016. That's the end of that year is actually, so around November, December was when I called Jake and I was like, "Hey, Jake, I'm going to blow this wall out."
Yeah.
And so I walked Jake around the space, but essentially I'm like, "Jake, could you come coach here? Like, I love your style. Could you come coach barbell here?" So he comes to the space and I'm showing him like half the space, and I walk him over to the other side and I'm like, "So it's going to look like this." Jake's like, "I don't know." Jake's like, "Whatever. Why don't you just call me when the wall's done?" Like,
Yeah.
Was that about your impression?
That was about it, because the other side, the main side, looked really good. And then I was like, all right, let's what's on the other side. So you walked me over there, and I think the original barbell room where we ended up moving the platforms into, it was still like transitioning from a law office, I think you said, that was there. So like the drop ceiling was still in there. The walls were still up, and then you walked me back into the main area where we would eventually move the barbell club to, and that had like a backhoe or something back there. There was like a bunch of equipment and stuff. I'm like, I don't know, man. I like the idea and I like the vision, but there's like, you gotta do a lot before I could even do that.
And this was before Jake like understood me, and now it's like you've seen a lot of my different visions that sound completely off the wall. They come to fruition.
They do,
and it's like, oh, he wasn't just pulling this out of his ass. Like this actually is possible. So, but not everybody understands that about me until they get to know it. Like I might have it in my head, but I have a very hard time actually explaining what's in my head until it comes.
That's the best part too. Just a side note, like when you go down that rabbit hole, if you like start explaining stuff, usually what happens is I'll understand it for about the first couple minutes, and then you'll be like way off the deep end, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I get it. And then after you walk away, I'm like, I have no idea what the hell he just said, but I think it's going to be a good idea, so I'm just going to roll with it.
Welcome to my life.
We're basically in that phase right now with the virtual training platform, because it's like I have the vision, I know exactly how it's going to look, but until I really show you guys, it's not going to make any goddamn sense. But I'm still going to tell you anyway.
No.
That's how this whole trip's been for me. I just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
I've learned that there are a lot of other people like me, and they're called entrepreneurs. So, okay. So we blow out the wall. This is the end of 16. Going into 17, it's pretty cool. The turf goes in. We have this mega facility. Actually, I should have mentioned we were dabbling with digital marketing in 2016 to the point. So we did the New You Challenge. Digital marketing was new enough at the time in the fitness space that we literally had a line of 55 women out our door waiting for an interview to join our program. And we had limited spots. It was insane. So I wanted to mention this because this was kind of in the era where digital marketing took off. And this was the peak of, in my opinion, CrossFit and the micro gym space, because a lot of gyms expanded like we did because they had demand for it because of digital marketing. But they did it prematurely, just like we did, because the digital marketing worked until it didn't. So that's just an aside. But so that's the end of 2016. We go into 2017. Not only did we bring on Jake, but we brought on some other a medley of different coaches, including Dakota, who that year did go to the CrossFit Games. So that was pretty cool to work with Dakota. And I did get to go out to regionals with him and everything. And, it's like in the warm-up room at regionals, the coach is not really needed at all, other than just somebody to bounce ideas off of with strategy and stuff like that. Not at all like weightlifting, where you absolutely need a coach to do basically everything for you. So regionals, it was just different with Dakota, and it was different for me being on the coach side, because last time I was there, it was the athlete side. So way easier from the bench.
I have a cool story about Dakota too.
Let's hear it.
So in 2016 is when I got out of the military. I think that end of July, August time set, and I went right into the school once I got back here. And I remember spending a lot of time at the gym initially when I got back as a member. And then I moved downtown, and you started doing Olympic programming for me. And I was doing all my lifting at school because I had moved downtown, lived in Wash Park area. And I was doing the whole program from the gym at school because I couldn't make it down due to all the traffic and how my class schedule was. And I remember one of those, I don't even know if Dakota even remembers this, but there was one of those days where I was lifting, I think in the middle of the day in between classes or something like that. And I think he had like this, bright, maybe pink shirt that had a gym on it from way back in the day. And he's over here doing like 405 for reps on deadlift. He's snatching like ungodly amount in the middle of this school gym, right? And I asked him if he did CrossFit because I saw his nanos, and I talked to him for a little bit, and I was telling him about cutthroat CrossFit. It's like, hey man, this is where I go to train and stuff like that. This is the program, and this is Brian. And then I think maybe a month later, I had come into the gym to say hi and actually lift at the gym, and I saw Dakota in there, and we started talking for a little bit. But I was like, "Hey, I see you found the gym." So, yeah, because of that moment, and he was in the I think he was coming from California or wherever, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm looking for a CrossFit gym in the area," and I had mentioned our gym, and I don't know if I'm the one that, got him to come to our gym or, research it or whatever, but I remember seeing him at school, and then a month later he was coaching at our gym. And I thought that was the craziest shit ever.
I didn't know that.
I'll bet that was part of it. I had an ad out on Indeed for coaches, and he did respond to that. So I bet it was part of it, though.
Yeah. That was really cool to see that transition and then see him end up coaching at the gym for that time. So
yeah, that's crazy. Okay. So that was 2017.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But do you realize in that you just plugged virtual custom training with me, because I'm obviously not the new kid on the block here. Like,
right. I mean, that was a remote program, if you think about it, because I wasn't able to make it to the gym. Everything was through True Coach, and I was doing it at school. So yeah.
And back then it was called Fitbot.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Oh, I remember Fitbot.
Yeah,
Fitbot,
they rebranded last year. But yeah, it's like, that's funny that you just plugged that, because it's like us moving to this virtual thing. We're not going to go into detail right now about it, but it's like we've actually been doing this for a really long time. It's not new. We've always had it, and we just don't usually talk about it because it only comes about when we have a member who's like, "Well, I can't make it to the gym anymore, but I love you guys," and we're like, "Well, we can program for you remotely. No big deal."
Yeah, that was my situation. So
yeah.
Yeah, even when I'm like at work, I'll like text Brian and be like, "What should I do today?" So he often, I try to follow the gym, but
so also that year we hired, you guys remember Coach John, who I still love that guy as a human. It's too bad he had to go, but he helped with the inception of the Ideal Collaborative, which was the next version, because we eliminated the word cutthroat from athletics. So now the Ideal Collaborative not only had all the stuff that our athletics umbrella had, but we're doing nutrition and body fat testing. We had massage therapy. We had physical therapy. So we had all this health stuff under one roof. And we burned through quite a few tenants. And the lesson I learned was these health professionals, I'm not talking about John, I'm talking about massage, chiro, physical therapy. They're not driven enough to be entrepreneurs within a facility like that. So they're just paying rent and they expect clients to come to their door, but they're not doing anything with marketing. So we're just trying to manage them, and they're wondering why they're not getting any clients. And I'm like, well, did you even hang out after class to talk to people to let them know who you are? So that began the struggle with, do I really want to manage all these people? And I fought it for years because we liked the model. Jake helped come up with this model too, because of his background. What he went to school for is this.
Mm-hmm. So that was also the time frame that I asked you to coach, and we had a discussion about that. Which
that was like right where you came in for coaching, right?
Yeah. So that's when. What's that?
18, right?
18.
Yeah, I think February, because I had gone to the L1 before that. Yeah. So February is when we started, and I only wanted to coach so I could get keys to the gym so I could lift whenever I wanted. That was my initial. That was the whole reason I wanted to coach.
Hey, guys that are listening to this, this is what most part-time CrossFit coaches want.
Yeah.
So it's a diamond in the rough when you actually find a good one, because they're literally just there to get a key and a gym membership. So when you hear that and you're looking for a new gym and stuff like that, that's what you're looking at. Okay. People that aren't doing this for a living, they're just punching their ticket. So that's not a knock on you, Josh. I'm just telling people the reality of the situation.
Well, that's the struggle too. We've dealt with coaches in and out, and that's just how it is. And I thought we were super fortunate when we got you guys, Jake and Josh, because you guys have been so steady, I guess.
For those of you guys that don't know, I do some consulting sales work for a company called Level Method. And I started with them right around when the babies were born, because I was spending more time at home and I needed some extra income, and I liked their system. But I talked to hundreds and hundreds of gym owners, like all the time. And this is a common thing. They ask me when I talk about our gym on these calls, they ask me how I found such good coaches. And I don't know. There's no way for me to tell them how to do it. It just kind of happened, and it just clicked, right? These guys want to do this for a living. They care. It's more than just getting a gym membership to them. They actually give a shit about the clients, and they give a shit about their personal development, meaning they didn't just take the level 1 and their education stops there. They're constantly pursuing it all the time. They're always looking for the next edge. So it's just interesting to hear all these other gym owners' problems. And it's like I got lucky, right? I feel like the luckiest guy in the world that you guys are here, but we derailed that. So go back to you, Josh, with the level 1.
Yes. So the whole point, I remember we were sitting at a microbrewery or some shit like that, and we were talking, and I was like, hey, what do I need to do to become a coach? And I think this was back 17, so maybe August of 17. I had gone through L1 in like November or December, some time frame like that. And then in February, we started coaching. And like I said, like I only wanted keys to the gym so I could lift. Coaching didn't seem that hard. You just, talk to people and talk about movements. I was already familiar with everything. I will say the moment that changed for me to like really understand why I wanted to coach was the day that I got to coach Becky on her deadlift. I've told this story a couple of times. I don't know if people remember it, but Becky was a member at that time, and she told me this after the fact. But she was sitting out in her car. She didn't know if she wanted to come in. She had a rough day at work. She was having a really horrible day, and she forced herself to walk through the door. And that day, I think we were doing 5 rep max in the class, and I maybe had like 4 or 5 people in there, and she was in the middle, and she had set a deadlift PR, maybe not too long before that, but that day we got her to push, and she ended up crushing her old PR and setting a new one. And we just celebrated. We took pictures, I believe. We had a great time with that moment. And then afterwards, this gives me goosebumps. Is she's like telling me about her day and how rough it was, and how almost she didn't come in to work out. She said because she did it, it changed her whole day, her whole perspective. And she told me, thank you. Like you really like changed my day. You brought me up. You made me laugh. Like I was so excited. I'm so pumped up to end the day on this note. And then that gave me goosebumps. And like I got emotional in that moment. And that is the moment that I was like, this is why I want to coach. This right here is my reason for coaching. So that was my transformative moment, that single moment having with Becky and getting to be a part of that PR moment with her and celebrating with her, and then realizing like this was the highlight of her day. Like this is the impact you have on other humans. Like you literally can change the dynamic of their life day in and day out. So that was my changing moment to become a coach, and why I wanted to stick with it and learn more and more. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, changing people's lives through fitness has been a recurring thing. It's like that's why we do it, right? It's it doesn't pay the best, right? So it's like it better feel good at the end of the day. So,
exactly. So that was my moment. And to say like how do you get these coaches like this? There is no system on how you get a good coach. I think it comes down to luck. It's the person, what resonates with them, and to answer those questions, like you can't. It just happens.
Yeah.
So let's jump back, because we talked about the birth of Ideal Collaborative and the death of Cutthroat Athletics, but we kept Cutthroat CrossFit mostly because I didn't want to change the name with the affiliate CrossFit HQ.
Yeah.
But the birth of Valhalla Barbell happened on the heels of that. So we killed Cutthroat Barbell. So Jake, can you talk about the birth of Valhalla and how that kind of came about in 2018?
Yeah, I feel like I remember it happening relatively close to when we did the rebrand for Ideal Collaborative, because John, obviously we mentioned John was there, and we were kind of, the way that I remember the name change and like picking out the name and the logo and stuff like that was we were up in the office upstairs one day, and it was like, wow, what can we name the club? And we were like kicking around all these ideas. We had like names written on the whiteboard, and then we started talking about like Viking mythology, and John was really into that. Like that was like his thing. Remember, he would talk about it all the time. We started bringing up like different things you could use in Viking mythology for a good name for a barbell club, and then we ended up settling on Valhalla. And then he designed this logo,
Badass.
still right there, and it's actually hands down my favorite logo because I'm a little biased, but he did a really good job with it, and that's kind of what kicked it all off. And I think that the name change, we also decided was a good point to do that as well, because it would be kind of weird to have the Ideal Collaborative and then cut through a barbell. Even though we still had to cut through a CrossFit program, we were kind of our own thing over there, and it was good just to differentiate it a little bit and give it a new face and a new name.
We wanted our weightlifters to have an identity.
Exactly.
Right? We didn't want it to be the Ideal Collaborative weightlifting team. It's like we don't call it all the same thing because their weightlifters are a special breed, and we know that because we are weightlifters. We're not the coaches that went to the CrossFit weightlifting certification and have a barbell club on Tuesday nights.
No.
That's not what it is. Okay, but we've been there. We've felt all the struggles, and we know that weightlifters are a special breed. It takes, and I'm speaking from my personal experience, it takes a special kind of stupid to lift the same lift every day, every single day for years and years and years with only maybe a kilo PR.
We're masochists.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Valhalla was what we settled on, because essentially it means Hall of Warriors in Norse language. And fun fact about that, I won't go too far off this, but after warriors would die in battle, they go to Valhalla, which is essentially their heaven. Fun fact, though, they don't just sit around and drink meat all day. They do that at the end of the day, and they feast. But throughout the day, if they were a warrior, they continue to practice every single day while they're in Valhalla for the coming of Ragnarok, which is the end of days in Vikings mythology. It's kind of a fun fact there.
Love it.
Yeah.
So still that year, Katie and I go to Jamaica.
Oh.
And she met a staff member there.
Oh my god!
And we found out later that Katie was pregnant. So I've since claimed these children as my own.
Kind of.
But
I've offered to get a paternity test, and he said he won't take it.
Anyway,
what was the baby song?
Oh, That Baby Don't Look Like Me was our theme song for the entire pregnancy.
We did the baby wad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this was like it was going to be my last hurrah. I knew it, so I did the American Open Series, which is different than it was in 2015.
Yeah,
that was in Las Vegas. Katie was originally going to compete, but then decided not to due to the pregnancy. Thinking that's my last hurrah, I'm going to go out with a bang. But I show up on meet day, wasn't having the best day.
Hands down, my favorite meet performance.
So I decide I'm having fun anyway. I know the lifts aren't going to go, and I'm going to have myself some fun. So I do. What was the snatch? What did I do in the snatch? It was I bombed the snatch basically. It was a horrible snatch day, and I almost bombed out. Right, and then that's when everything turned. Yep. In the warm up room, we decided that I would not be doing the clean and jerk, but in fact, I would be doing a split clean, 2 front squats.
Originally, it was going to be the split clean, the 2 front squats, and then you were going to do a squat jerk at the end. I think is like
because that makes no sense. Like, how could you front squat? Like, it's so stupid. So we made a mockery of the entire thing.
The best part
was Jake was in the back coaching you, and then I was sitting with Roseanne, and we're watching, and we had no idea you were going to be a jackass. So like we're sitting in the crowd. And these people are like, is this guy serious? And like, we're like losing it laughing.
Yeah.
It's funny because Max Ada is still my coach. And I started working with Max fairly quickly after Russia. I went through a couple of the other online coaches. And so Max has seen this entire transition from like serious weightlifter to like that moment in the back room. And Max is the probably one of the only coaches that would absolutely roll with this and egg it on.
He totally did.
So
That was the best part. Like you were like, you finished snatch and you were listed at a higher opener, and then you're like, all right, here's what I want to do. And then like Max is like, all right, we got to move him down. I'm like, all right, cool. So I walk over and I moved him down. I moved you down. But then that took you like from the end of the session to all the way to the beginning, and we had to like shove you through the warm up really fast. And then we cut off the squat jerk because you got to about 100. You missed the squat jerk, and you're like, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm gonna go into something else. Yeah.
I think I ended out. Did I miss
You
120?
missed. So
Yeah.
you do all of that, and then he misses the jerk.
That was the best part.
You had an elbow bend, but like you're doing. You're such
It was
you missed.
The look on the judge's face was the most priceless moment in my weightlifting career. Because when I stood up, they were like, he's gonna squat again.
Yep. And then it was like a pause, and you're like,
that was awesome.
The best part, the other part too, is when you did that and you went in for the second squat, as you made that face, some guy in the crowd, it was almost dead silent, but some guy in the back was like, huh! And then you finished the complex, and you missed the jerk. I'm like, yeah.
So for those of you guys that don't know, you do not have to squat. So doing 2 squats is completely irrational.
Yeah.
Especially when you power the beginning of it. But anyway, we can post a video of it, but we got to keep going here because we're actually doing pretty well on this nap.
Yeah.
So
that was 18, right? So we finished 18.
Yeah, finish 18, coming into 19. Jackson and Mila are born on February 21st. So that kind of changed a little bit of things for Katie and I. The Open was going on, and it was the first time since 2014 that I wasn't there for the Open workout, and I had
they were born on a Thursday.
Yeah, I had to video in. And Jake put me up on the big screen, and that was kind of emotional because I wanted to be there, but it was like I'm not leaving the hospital where my babies were just born for a exercising thing. So I do that, and that year got pretty crazy, just with the babies and everything. You guys essentially had to take over the gym because I couldn't be there most of the time. You guys did a great job with it.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, had it been one baby, I think I could have handled by myself, but
Yeah.
2 was a lot, so it was nice to have Brian home.
With having babies, though, you rethink kind of everything. And by the summer, I decided that I hated managing these massage therapists, physical therapists, etc. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I just wanted to focus on getting people strong and healthy. That's what I do best. It's what I've always done. And I veered away from it. So we rebrand again. And
One more downsize.
this time it was the ultimate one because we finally went
you
through.
Loved it.
Love.
All the other brands
Yeah.
were like, yeah, this will work. But this one was like, yeah.
The other stuff, we were trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and we were doing what we thought people wanted versus what we were the best at. And EK, we were like, nope, this is what we do best. Here's what we're doing. And we're going to make it elegant, and it's going to be phenomenal. And it was. And it still is going to be virtually. But we had no inkling that we wouldn't have the physical space. Basically, when we did the rebrand, we're like, yeah, we're in this again for the long term.
Well, and because we went like all out on the front room.
Cost me like $30,000.
Actually, even like I think Brian posted
Literally.
a picture, but Brian like put up all these wall ball targets a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was like, he spent all day on it. And then I think when we decided like we couldn't open the doors again, that was the one thing he was like, I fucking spent my whole day on that.
Actually, this wall behind you was the next project that was going to happen. It was going to be the giant wall in the gym.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm still fucking doing it. I'm just doing it at my house.
You know what I had a visualization of is the progression of the gym. You could think of it as a human being, right? So we started off fit, slender, in that small space. And then when you increase the size capacity, it's like we got a little bit fatter, right? And it kind of didn't work out because we were too fat.
We got diabetes.
And then we had Yeah, we had diabetes, so we had to like trim that off again, and it's like we went back to the slender form with elevated kinetics.
It was like the diabetic that realized, okay, it was pre-diabetes, right?
Yeah,
Pre-diabetes, because they realized like they actually had control of this and they could get their stuff together, and they started getting healthy again. That's exactly a great analogy, Josh. And then now we just leaned out again. We, instead of shrinking in size, we just lost the physical facility altogether, and now it's going to be the healthiest it's ever been.
we're the jacked version.
The jacked version.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So we could go into more detail about the rebrand, but we already did a podcast on it. And you guys can go back and listen to that podcast. And also, if you want to know more about Josh's story, that's on our YouTube channel. We did a full, was that video, Jake, like an hour long just on Josh and his story?
It's closer to 30 minutes, but yes. Yeah.
We had a lot more. We had a lot of content there that Jake had in, but yeah. So we're doing the virtual thing now, and we are pretty excited about it. This week, I've been telling everybody. I just recorded a video that I'm going to put in our members group, but we got to be out of the space by the end of the week, so that's been sort of my top priority. But then I'm going to get to finishing the build out on the virtual platform that we're pretty excited about, because I'm sure somebody's doing it, but I haven't found it yet in the method that I'm going to put this out. So it is a little bit unique in that capacity, but like I said, I'm sure somebody somewhere is doing it. I just haven't found it yet because it's the most competitive thing other than like skincare. So that's okay, because we have our niche, and it's we make busy people healthy through strength, and now we can really narrow in on that niche and help those people. Like, want to do Pilates, go do Pilates. That's not what we do. You want to get strong and you don't have a lot of time to do it, that's exactly what we do. And you can do it anywhere, not just at your house. You can do it at some gym. And so I have all these different tracks of programming based on what they have access to, and they just pick their track and they're off. And of course there's different services available to escalate it. And Valhalla continues, and it's cool. Like, Katie and I are building out our basement gym, which is badass, and you guys will see content from that. But once it's done, it's going to be a fully functional training facility. For personal training, we can do really small group training. But I already have an 8x8 platform. It's fully decked out, squat rack, the bike, the rower, all of it. It's you could train an Olympic champion with less.
Yes.
So
I just shared your complex on our Valhalla page.
Yes. We could do a whole podcast just on that. So for the listeners and the viewers, guys, we condensed that into about an hour, which was impressive. And we didn't get cut off because of the babies, which was nice. But every single one of those years could be an entire hour-long podcast. So if I grazed over something and maybe I left somebody out, I didn't do it intentionally. I'm just trying to do it the fast way. I didn't even go into detail on different members or the lady that posed as a firefighter to try to get a discount. We've seen it all. We didn't even go into detail on that stuff. So we could expand on that at some point, but we did the quick and dirty version. So
yeah, we didn't even talk about Jake painting the mural on the back of the Hall room before we got rid of that.
We need a follow up. We can, now that we have like the main outline done, we probably should do a follow up with all those little things. Like, that logo is sick, but it has a lot of detail, and Jake painted that in detail.
It took me 14 hours.
Yeah. And then he told me, he's like, I don't care what it costs. If we do this again, I'm buying a poster.
Yeah, because as soon as he painted it, we closed that room down.
It was up there for a good, like a little bit, but then it was like, it's like, all right, we're moving out. Like, cool. I spent all day on that. Kind of like Brian spent on the wall ball targets, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll end there.
All right.
Because I don't want to drag on. We're right at the 59-minute mark. So, as always, guys, if you need help with your training program, we're launching our virtual offering on June 1st. The lowest just membership offering, it starts at $35 a month. 35 buckaroos. It's that cheap. Obviously, If you want to see Jake without his shirt on, then that's going to cost you $5,000 a week.
Yep.
But we have that built in. So thanks for listening, guys. If you want to find, actually just plug your socials, guys, really quick before we sign off.
J Sharp _546 on Instagram, and then of course just Joshua Sharp on Facebook. Email if you want, Josh at elevatedkinetics.com, especially if you want questions, understanding our nutrition program, things like that. Definitely reach out. We can definitely help you out, give you some details on how we run that program as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and you can find me at Coach Sterney on Instagram. You can find Valhalla Weightlifting at Valhalla Weightlifting _ on Instagram as well. And then we're both on Facebook. You can email me at jake@valhalla-barbell.com.
And I am Instagram at BenderKM. I'm on Facebook. And then I actually started a blog. I started it like 6 months ago. There's a lot of like twin parenting things, but I actually just wrote a blog on my perspective. I mean, I've been like his co-pilot along the whole time, but it's kind of my perspective on where CrossFit started and where we're at now, and kind of some struggles in there too. So I think I have like almost 500 reads on that blog already. Because they're interested, my website is bringingupbenders.com.
Yeah, give that one a read because it's
awesome.
It's not all flowers and butterflies. It shows a real perspective into some of the darker sides of this industry. So it's a great blog post. And yeah, if you guys want to find me, if you just go to elevatedkinetics.com, you put in your name, phone, and email, I'm the guy that responds to you.
Yeah.
So, all right. And Roseanne loved it. Great recap. And Tony loves the blog. Tony's actually coming by the gym today to get himself some pull blocks.
Yeah, Tony.
Yeah. And actually, Tony's coming back, Jake. I'm announcing it live on the podcast. But
yes.
He said last week, it was a verbal Facebook message. So I'm going to take it as
you're committed now.
He's coming back to weightlifting. So
Tony.
Virtually. So he's decking out his.
Tony, you've been gone for 2 years, man.
Yeah. So, all right, you guys.
I loved you.
Yeah, Tony's been one of our favorites since the very beginning. So, all right, everybody. I hope this was valuable to you. I hope you enjoyed the origin story. And if you have questions about specifics, we can do a follow-up podcast with exactly that. So tell us in the DMs what you want to hear, and we'll put it together for you. All right, everybody. That's episode 30.
Peace out.
Peace.